Happy Thursday. How's it going? Let's fix it in Livestream or some other stuff. How's it going? How's everyone's week? How is everyone doing? Homesick Mac, hello. I know it's late for you, so thanks for joining the live stream today. Can you guys hear me? Yes and no. I had a microphone issue last week. So now I have to I'm using my original microphone, so it's gonna be a little bit different. So I just want to make sure it's sounding okay. I want to make sure that it's sounding okay. I'm looking okay. Everyone's feeling good. It's hot outside. Avars, how nice to see you. Busy week, but you survived. Yeah, I've had plenty of those as well. So I'm glad that you made it out. And by the way, that your video that you posted yesterday, the video that you posted yesterday, it was good because I've had my fair share of dealings with trying to monetize applications, and it's such a gauntlet to just figure out that portion of it. So I enjoy watching your videos because I understand at a surface level all the stuff that you're trying to achieve, that you're trying to do. So keep them coming. Roger, hello. Happy Thursday. Oh, good. Okay, not too late. Just woke up. Nice. So yeah, today, give me 1 second. I'm just going to be setting one thing up in the background here. Today, I want to be talking about specifically, oops, did I go live on that? Oh, I'm in preview mode. Okay, good. So yeah, today I want to be talking about 10,000 hours. And I know that we've all heard that. And I know that we've heard, I know that we've all heard that term, 10,000 hours, and what it actually means and where it comes from. And on a surface level, okay, again, there's that word. On a surface level, 10,000 hours to develop a skill it's an interesting idea. When I first heard about it, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. It is actually, it takes a lot of time to develop a skill. And 10,000 hours, it sounds about right. It feels about right, and where the entire idea came from. Let me know if you guys have done anything that you've considered your 10,000 hours worth to develop a skill. Because I'm actually going to go through a few things and kind of going all the way back to university in terms of how I think about the 10,000 hours in my own career, in my own perspective, from my own skills that I've developed over the years. Let me know if the audio or the music is too loud, or if the mic is coming through. I don't have a cloud lifter, so I don't know if it's loud enough or if there's too much noise. Again, I wasn't able to test out this microphone right before the stream. So let me go back to live mode. Okay. So let me pull up my handy dandy keynote here. So 10,000 hours and the mastery portion of it, to master a skill, and this whole thing came from this whole where is it? There it is. This whole idea came from that it takes many hours to practice that will get you good at a specific skill. So let's first break down how many days would that be on average. Like if you did 8-hour days, how many days, months, and years do you think that would be if you were practicing nonstop 8 hours a day, like working hours, so 5 days a week kind of thing? That works out to about 3.5 years of solid learning in that field. I don't want to just say practice, because practice is, I'll get into it, but the practice is not the right word. So if you were to do something 8 hours a day for about 3 years, 3 to 5 years, that's how long it would take you to reach 10,000 hours on a particular skill level. And you are absolutely right. Pro musicians, so yeah, 10,000 hours pro musician since 1983. So I guess I paid my dues. Yeah, absolutely. And where is it? And there's this, there's the other saying of like, don't be a jack of all trades, be a master of one. And I don't think that really applies. Like, I think people can get really, really good at something else, but to get to that point, they have to develop so many other related skills to be great at that. So would it all be under one umbrella? Would it be all considered that one skill? Because the original idea was popularized by Malcolm Gladwell in his book Outliers. It's a great read, by the way, if you haven't read the book. He talks about the idea in chapter 2. He talks about how there was a study where in 1993 there was a study done with violinists and pianists, I think, where they kind of rated the best ones of them, and then when they surveyed them, when they asked them, how long have you been practicing to get to that point, and how many hours did you practice before you got to the age of 20? So it's before the age of 20 for the violinists. And they said that on average, everyone that they surveyed, the ones that were like world-class professionals, they practice around 10,000 hours. And Malcolm Gladwell ran with that, and it's like, that's what it takes. That's why Bill Gates was so good, because he was able to do he was able to get so many complex skills and build Microsoft by the time he was like 16 or 17 or whatever it was. But there was an interview that came out a little bit later, and of the people that actually did the study, and the person that wrote the actual study said that that was a vast oversimplification of what they were actually trying to prove, because it's not just it's not just deliberate practice. So you hand someone a violin and they just practice for 10,000 hours and they're going to be amazing. That is not the way it works, and that was not the point of the entire study. It was one portion of it, and it was very important, that deliberate practice. Like there's this story from Eddie Van Halen's brother. He would say that he'd be leaving for work in the morning or for school, and his brother would be sitting at the edge of the bed playing his guitar. Eddie Van Halen would be playing his guitar, and when he would come back 10 hours later, Eddie Van Halen was still in the exact same place. It seemed like he hadn't moved, and he was still practicing and playing the guitar. And he said that he would do this constantly, nonstop, day in, day out, which gets you to that 10,000 hours very quickly. Because if you're able to do it more than 8 hours a day, just constantly practicing that one thing, you're going to get to 10,000 hours in under 3 years. And I actually found that to be interesting if I kind of correlate it to the YouTube journey that a lot of us are on ourselves, is that we have to put in that work to get really good at understanding how to make videos that connect with people, that are watched, that are enjoyed, that are shared, that are like all those little things lead up to that 10,000 hours, that 3 to 5 year mark. So it's not exactly 10,000 hours per se, but maybe it is, depending on how many hours we work on filming, editing, and then posting all that stuff, and then all the back end stuff that we do. So yeah, so it's more than just practice. So more than just as Eddie Van Halen sitting on that bed just practicing by himself. Like, he's definitely an exception to the rule, because he did teach himself a lot of his skills, his guitar. He developed his own way of playing. But for the violinists, it had to be this consistent improvement. It had to be, they learn something, they practice that, and then once they get good at that, they have to learn something next to get good at that, and then keep going. So it's this constant improvement, not just practice, but it's deliberate practice on a very specific set of skills that Liam Neeson would be very, very proud of. I wonder how long it took Liam Neeson to develop his particular set of skills. So it comes down to how good the teacher is for that person doing the deliberate practice. Because it really comes down to you practicing something and someone being good enough of a teacher to recognize that A, you're doing it well, or how you can improve what you're doing to do it better, to do it well, to do it a way that actually fits well for you. So it's this constant of finding those great teachers that you've had in your life, the ones that saw that you were doing something but just tweaked you just a little bit, and then you're kind of off to the races until your next plateau. So it's not just 10,000 hours worth of practice, not even 10,000 hours worth of deliberate practice, but it's 10,000 hours of practice with the proper guidance and with the proper teacher. And I know that I've had my plenty shares of teachers. I had a drum teacher that was in a band called Vampire Horses. Yeah. I know. I was what, 14, 15, but he set all these practices for me to do, like all the drills, and they were a pain in the ass because it's just like, I just wanted to drum, but he was making me do paradiddles. He was making me do, actual stick handling that was more wrist movements than because there's a way you can actually cheat and move the sticks a little bit faster, but he's like, no, get your wrists going at, like, actually do that motion so your muscle memory is a little bit more, you strengthen those muscles, because there's a way where you can actually, as you flick down, you can do this, which it helps you do faster rolls and stuff like that. But he made me do all the hardcore drills, like the actual, all the patterns, all the different patterns, and then stacked on patterns, and then just kept going, where it drove me nuts in the moment. But when it all finally clicked, I was able to go at a pace that was a little bit faster and a little bit more consistent and a little bit more power than a lot of the other people that were drumming around me. So I thank him for those kind of things. I thank him for having to do that. And that's where, when we teach our kids, when we teach kids, or teachers teach kids, it's that moment. You always want to have just enough push where they're still constantly improving, where they're still moving forward, where they're still going a little bit beyond their skill level and their comfort zone to do better. How do you guys like the Ecamm merch and the shirt? They were kind enough to send me stuff. I'm using Ecamm Live for live streaming. I actually love this software. It's so near and dear to my heart, the way it's set up, the way close to the software that we were developing when I was working for the hologram company. I love all this. Like, these are all the things that I wanted to put into our software. They have it here, and I have actually reached out to some of the people and just like, can you add this kind of feature? Can you add that kind of feature? So it feels like I'm kind of project managing. I'm asking. They're obviously not responding to those emails, but I want to see, like, that would be so cool if you can do this, and it'd be great if you can do that. So thank you, Ecamm, for Ecamm Fam, for sending me the You're on Mute and t-shirt. I think this is hilarious because so many times I'm on a Zoom call, and now it's just like, without having to do the You're on Mute wave. or screaming into the camera. So having great teachers. Jashim, hello. How's it going? Happy Thursday. Hold on, let me see some of these comments. You were 10 plus years in the payment industry. Well, you got your 10,000 hours. That's for sure. And now that's why you're building your own payment apps. You're gonna make the crypto money. That's what it is, right? You're making those apps to mine all the Bitcoin. Do you guys have any cryptocurrencies? Do you guys own any Dogecoin, any Bitcoin, any of the other altcoins that are out there? Yep. So yeah, different roles, different companies. But that gets me into the next few points that are coming up. That's skill stacking. It's not the jack of all trades, because jack of all trades, that by definition is you're very good at making an app. So Avars, for you specifically, and please let me know if I'm saying your name right, because the AI kind of throws me in a loop. So for in your case, you're building the app, so you know the coding, you know that, but then there's so if you're a jack of all trades, then you're like, well, now I'm gonna go and make a wooden chair, because that's what you want to do. And so you're really good at that, and then you're good at that, and you know how to work with power tools. Like, those are skills that are completely unrelated to a very large extent. There may be some things that that do work, like the design you need to figure out, but still, like, those are unrelated. That's jack of all trades, where it's like you know how to fix the plumbing in the house, or you know how to fix an engine, or you're really good at painting, but the coding part, like, those are being good at very different things that are unrelated. But most people that I've met, most creative people especially, almost everyone that is good at what they do, they have what, as Liam Neeson says, they have those certain set of skills that added up over time. So let's break down Liam Neeson from Taken. He knows how to track people. He knows how to use guns. He knows how to be covert. He knows how to have that perfect deep voice that's menacing enough that he's going to come get you because you're threatening his family. So it's all those skills. Like, for me personally, I'm going to speak from my own personal experience. When I started out, I think I told the story before. So when I started out, when I got my first camera and I just started playing, I just knew that I liked pointing the camera at stuff and capturing the images, especially photography. I got really excited about taking photos and doing the composition and understanding, depth within a shot, and the rule of thirds and all those things, and then lighting, and then what it means, and getting really excited about that. But then I got excited about adding another dimension to that, motion, where you start moving the camera. So now we have motion images. So it's 24 pictures after another. So after you add that, then you have the camera angles. Then you have the colors that you put into the shot. Then you have the actors that convey certain things. Then you have learning how to edit from one shot to another. The juxtaposition thing that I was talking about last week, where you can implant ideas, have idea suggestions. So that all stuff really fascinated me. So by the time I started university, my goal is I wanted to be a cinematographer, because we would plan out those shots that would then be edited together down the line. But when I got to university and all that supplemental schooling that I did, there was a point where I would be filming stuff for people, but I wanted to film my own stuff too, because I was still excited about that. And when I got to that point where I filmed my own short film, I was the one that would edit the short films. I would be the one putting them together. But then other people that were in my school, in my classes, they would ask for help to first shoot their things, but then edit their projects. And I was just learning, so I would help them out. But then I would want to put titles and graphics and VFX in my own film. But when people saw that, they wanted that in there. So it's just all these necessities that all led to literally where I am today. So I wouldn't say that I have specifically, I'm a master at any one of the modalities that I'm working in, but I know that I'm fairly literate in being able to communicate very well with people that are excellent in those aspects. And I know enough to be able to talk to majority of people in this entire industry. And I can do it to a certain extent. I wouldn't say I'm a master VFX artist or a master compositor or a master editor or any of those things, but I know that I could get it up to a level that those people, like the people that are really great at it, will look at it and be like, that's pretty dang good. It's pretty good, because I'm not one thing to the majority of people that I work with. I'm not a director to most people. I'm not an editor to most people. I'm not a motion graphics person to most people. And this is one of my earlier videos where I kind of talk about that. And it's like, what do you want to be known for? That's where it comes down to. Like, where do you want to put your focus? Because where you put your focus is what you're going to be known for. What you put out on your reel is what work you're going to attract, because that's what people outside of you know. So you could have this 10,000 hours worth of education and skill and practice in a field that nobody even knows about, but you're that good at it. And this is where skill stacking comes into play, because I can walk into any kind of project, into any kind of scenario, and understand how to add to that project, how to add to that conversation. And that's always what I'm trying to strive for with every skill that I learn, because it's a skill that is relevant to what I'm actually working on or trying to develop. And I always have to go back. Like, I always find myself kind of leapfrogging into, oh, I'm going to learn this new skill. I'm going to learn, first it was writing, then it was, how to craft a better story. But I always find myself looping back to picking up the camera again and like revisiting that. And every time I pick up the camera and to take photos and to do whatever, I always feel like I'm in a better position than I was when I first started. And then the second time I picked it up, and the third, because there are moments where, like, for months and sometimes years, I didn't do that thing. But then I'm able to get back into it because all the muscle memory that I built over the years. So skill stacking is actually vital to everything that we do. And we're always in a constant transition into learning the next little bit, getting a little bit better, learning the next thing. And especially this last, I would say 10, 15 years have been amazing with the internet and all these people sharing this vast amount of knowledge. And the better you get at something, the faster you get at realizing the people that know what they're talking about, that are good at what they do, and are able to teach you and add to your own value that you're trying to develop and that you're trying to build up. Jake, hello. Happy Thursday. Hopefully Houston is nice and warm and pleasant today. So Homesick Max says, related skills. Childhood friend also invested 10,000 hours in playing, but never left the bedroom. I could socialize, promote myself to agents, and love performing. Only 10,000 hours won't get you a career. 100%. Because I'm getting excited. Okay, so there's this whole other level of skills that I've set myself forward in the last, I would say, 5 years, where I've always been relatively confident walking into on a set. I've always been, now I would get nervous the night before, but I relatively be confident because I came prepared. and being prepared is having that practice or doing that research or learning that skill that you know that you're going to need to do. I always try to walk into a scenario where I feel like I'm over prepared, because when I come over prepared to any particular task that I need to do, and sometimes I overthink it and, you know, get myself stuck into too many things. But over the last 5 years, I have taken it as a challenge. That's why I created this YouTube channel. That's why I started putting more effort into like Instagram, into social media, into being able to communicate outside of my networking community, because 99% of the work that I would get prior to that was word of mouth from people that I worked with before, or from people that I worked with before that recommend me to someone else. And because of YouTube and being a bit more confident, and the reason I wanted to do live streams and do these videos is to hone my communication, my verbal communications, to a level where I could get an impromptu invitation to do a talk. Because I've done talks before. I've done presentations at universities where I talked about editing, where I've talked about doing interactive multimedia stuff, especially in the mid 2000s, where all those interactive websites were just booming. That's when I did a lot of that. For about 7 years, we did so many interactive websites, or I participated and worked on those, where the media was just starting to move from traditional TV spots to these online experiences. The budgets were a little bit smaller, but the skills that I had built up in the commercial space, I was able to one-for-one translate into the storytelling of interactive stuff. And now it's kind of like you can't have one without the other. But that social skill, that social interaction, that ability to write, understand how to write even an email to someone, and to communicate, how to be present on the phone, how to communicate overall in a way that just kind of exudes confidence. And if you speak with confidence, people will hear that confidence from you. They'll feel that authority, that you know what you're talking about. There's that saying, the fake it till you make it. I think Chris Dew put it a little bit better. He said, believe it until you achieve it. I think that's a better way to describe it. But coming prepared to any scenario. So if you get an invitation to maybe pitch on something or to participate in something, doing your due diligence and putting in the effort, especially if you already have this back catalog of skills that are easy to talk about or easy to implement, and just figuring out what is the audience that you're trying to communicate to, what is the solution to the issue that needs to be resolved. And that's where your expertise comes in. But I completely agree that learning that side, all the orbital stuff, that's the word I'm looking for, all the orbital stuff around your profession, because learning how to play something doesn't mean that you get to go play places. Because sometimes you need to put yourself out there. Sometimes you need to let people know that you're worth getting for that project or for that gig or for whatever. I always have this thing where I always want to have a purpose for going to any particular place, like an award show or to conferences. Like, why am I going there? Am I going there just to be a spectator? I tend to kind of bow out of those things. But if I'm there for a purpose, or I'm going with a group because it's a group kind of purpose, then I think that makes sense. So skill stacking, building on related skills. Is that clear enough, or should I delve into it a little bit more? I was actually thinking of doing a dedicated video to skill stacking, and kind of really pointing out how it is just as important as practice and getting good at one particular thing. Because understanding how to use a computer is such an important skill to learn before you can learn all those other skills that a computer can offer, like Photoshop and After Effects and Final Cut and Premiere or Word or whatever you want to do. First, you need to learn that before you get on to the next thing. And sometimes when you're starting a new profession or a new skill set, that's where getting those fundamental parts right. And that's why I think I always kind of hammer home, learn the fundamentals first in anything that you do. On my channel, particularly for lighting, learn the fundamentals of lighting first before you start buying all the expensive lighting gear or cameras, because good lighting can make any camera great. All right, excited. These are the kind of topics that I really enjoy delving into, because on the surface it's such a great little catchphrase, like 10,000 hours and you're gonna be great at it. And it's like, okay, and then like people get 5 hours into it, they're like, I don't know if I can do this. So that's where you need to have that passion. That's where you need to have the excitement and understanding that whenever you start at the 0 hour mark and you move on to the next thing, that learn the fundamentals, because everything else hinges on understanding those well. It's the whole learn the rules so you can break them later and break them to your advantage. Luis, oh no, there we go. Luis, hello, happy Thursday. Yep, that was a good book. Okay, what's next? So, mastery levels. I've met quite a few people that are really, really good at the thing that they do, especially cinematographers. There's quite a few that I've met that are just like mind-bogglingly good at what they do. Like they come on set and it's like they instantly know what needs to happen, what light is going to produce what, at almost even like what percentage of power is going to be what they're doing. And this is partly because they've come prepared and they have a vast understanding of what they're trying to achieve. Even in moments where it isn't a pre-planned shot, where they're like, it's not working, we need to tweak a few things, let's adjust this. Or if the director has an idea kind of in the moment, like there are some really amazing people. Like there even editors, some editors I've met where they just have this just almost instinct level precision of laying down one clip, and they know the idea that they're trying to feed into the audience because they understand the story so well, and they understand what a particular shot will evoke from the audience at that moment. They even have this, like, they know when to cut. There's one editor where, mind blank, I can't remember his name right now, but I think he did a lot of the Coen brothers movies. But he has this editing technique where right before the audience, or right before the main character blinks, he edits out. Like he uses that as his edit thing, as an intuitive thing. But my question here is, can you master multiple skills? Like, would you say that you're proficient enough in multiple things that if someone looking from the outside would be able to say to you, it's like, wow, you're really good at X, Y, and potentially Z? Or is it like, no, you've learned that one thing? Because if 10,000 hours, even if that's 10 years, every 10 years you should be able to master multiple skills, and not just music wise, but like in any particular field. Even if it does require teaching. There's this story about an 80-year-old who went back to school and got her master's or PhD by the time she was 90 and became a PhD in a specific field. And I think it was like can't remember exactly, but I think it was like either archaeology or she was just into it. And it's one of those stories that gives me hope, where it's just like, if I wanted to just kind of shift gears and learn a new skill and change my entire career, it would take about 10 years to get there. And if I wanted to go back to school and I wanted to do that, I always wanted to go back to school and get like a psychology degree. That's kind of where I wanted to go initially. It was either my two focus of interests were cinematography and lawyer. Like that's where I wanted to kind of get to, but just the amount of joy that I was getting from doing film work, the other one kind of died out really quick. And it's too many case studies they had to read about all these. There was a course that I took. It was called Philosophy of Law, which was fascinating. It was just a history of the past 100 years of all these marquee cases that were just so bonkers. There's one where a guy. There was one. It was on a reserve where there's a guy thought his father turned into a Wendigo, a night demon or something like that, and he had to kill him because in his belief, his father was possessed and no longer his father, and he was a demon come to kill everybody. So he killed his father. The philosophy of law, and there was a whole case study where he ended up getting off on the fact that he believed that to be true because that was part of his life growing up. Anyways, I digress. That's kind of an off tangent, but like I love those kind of things, but there were so many that were just, there's never good law cases, or at least not ones that in the first 2 years of schooling that I found. Anyways, I wanted to do film, and here I am talking about film on YouTube. So hi, how's it going? How you guys doing? So, can you master multiple skills? I'd say yes. And if there are interests that you have, if there are interests that you're passionate about, that you want to explore, do the research now. You can learn almost an entire education's worth from free resources and books that you can get. Now, that's where the teachers, make sure that you choose your teachers that make sure that the teachers that you choose are the ones that help promote and guide you a little bit. That's why we're in this weird state where everyone is posting a course on how to do something, and you have to find those teachers that you trust, that resonate with you, that are able to connect with you and teach in a way that help you consistently improve through that deliberate practice. Now, are you guys doing anything on the side where you're learning skills that are above and beyond everything that you're doing? I know I am. I'm constantly dabbling in a whole bunch of different things. Completely unrelated skill. Lately, I've kind of taken up and wanting to learn the woodworking and craftsmanship of that kind of stuff. And it's weird because I'm trying to find the joy, and I used to really not like the woodworking kind of stuff, the craftsman, but now it's like I am enjoying it. I'm starting to enjoy it, but I enjoy the finished products. It's the same way that I enjoy projects that I finish. Once I finish them, I get really excited and look back and try to decompress and dissect where a project could have gone better. What can I do next time? What would I have done next time? The only thing that I don't like about woodworking, and because we're planning to do our basement, we're planning to do our the backyard. Excuse me. The only thing that I don't like is that there is no undo button. I'm so used to Command Z or Control Z, and just like, oops. And if you're working with physical objects, there is no oops or undo. It's just like, well, I need a whole new piece and start from the beginning of that process. That's the part that I find most frustrating. So I tend to overthink and overplan. And that's where the still learning part is. I know that even in the filmmaking that I do now, a lot of the videos that I make about lighting and about camera stuff, about editing, these are all things that I love relearning them. I love having that refresher of understanding, like, oh yeah, these are the fundamentals. That's the reason we're doing all these things. So I'm actually enjoying that step back where I get to revisit all those things that I learned. Because when you learn something, you kind of keep what you need and you discard the rest, because it's like, this is all I needed to learn at this moment. This is what I'm learning right now. And this is what I need to kind of move forward. This is a skill that I need to learn now. But there's so many things. It's like, oh, right. When you kind of go back and you look at the fundamentals part and you understand it and you revisit it from this higher learned self that you're at, it's a whole new way of seeing it, and it connects on such a deeper level. It's like watching a movie for the third time and going, now I see why that character did that thing in that point, because at the first pass I didn't even notice that character because you were so entrenched into the main storyline that you missed all these subplots that are so crucial. And that's another skill that I've seen people be able to do. They're able to watch a movie and they pick up on all the storylines all the way through on that first pass. I'm like, how do you do that? How do you see everything? And they're like, oh yeah, and that do you see that little mistake that was in the in the third act? I was like, I don't know how people do that. Anyways, so point being is that revisiting some of those original skills, it's like reading a book and understanding the gist of it, but then when you go back to it a month later, like, what was that book about? Like, that's one of the things that I wish I could retain all the things that I've read or all the things that I've learned instead of having to kind of revisit them, because there's always these gold nuggets that pop up during the whole expanse of everything that we learn. So we're constantly learning. We're in a constant state of transitioning from learning one thing to the next, revisiting old things that we learn. So with the 10,000 hours, it really comes down to consistent and constant improvement of what you want to achieve. And it's not just practice, because if you give someone like with a guitar, if you give them a platonic scale to learn, they'll learn it. But there's no fundamentals to implement it into something beyond that one scale. Like, they may be able to go back and forward, they may be able to do thirds all the way down and back, but like, how does that fit into a bigger skill that they be able to use it in composing music? Musicians have a unique mind. That's why I'm a drummer, not a guitarist. Anyways, Homesick Max says, I added video and photo knowledge during the last 6 to 7 years, even making income from that as well. Always learning. Yeah, exactly. Always learning and adding skills. And because the photo and video for you specifically allowed you to play more and to a bigger audience. And so that kind of goes back to your original statement, where even that social part is adding that. But you needed to add that skill, because that's that orbital, the orbit skills that are very crucial to your core skill. So you have your orbital skills and then your core skill and your skill stacking, and then you can make sandwiches that are delicious and just make you And it is, I would say it is a joy of life, because there's a point where learning a skill, it becomes frustrating, especially when you plateau. And it's when you interject that someone that can teach you or nudge you in that right direction to let you know that that you're doing well. It's like when kids are learning something new and they're doing it, and they look at you like, yeah, am I oh, okay, good. And it's that confidence building to know that you're doing it right. Because if you're learning on your own, it does become a lot harder. But that's where YouTube does come in handy for learning that, maybe those little breakthrough moments, like, how do I do that? So you learned. Oh, where'd he go? So you got into programming and tech, so kind of later in school, and then the photo and video stuff and YouTube. Yeah, all the same things I was saying before. It's I love learning new things, because I actually find myself getting excited when I do learn something, and I knew that it wasn't something that I had known before, and I realized how useful it is. I remember telling my wife, I don't know, like about 10 years ago, like, I wish that I was able to learn the way I'm learning now when I was back in university. Like, I wish that the way I'm understanding stuff, the way stuff is instantly clicking with me every single time I learn something, I understand it so much faster and on such a deeper level now. But that is because there's that history of all the other things that came before it, where everything just falls into place. So I don't know if I would have been able to at that young age, because, you know, if you're in your 20s, it's your mind is definitely is in a different place. So I love the veracity of the learning that has been happening lately, especially this past 10 years, all the extra skills that I've learned on top. Like, as soon as I started working in the interactive space, because before it was all linear, analog, filmmaking, commercials, films, the corporate videos, but it was all in that space. But then once we added in the interactive portions of it, and we had to rethink what a linear story was to a open-ended story where people can literally click anywhere and choose to go anywhere in a choose your own adventure kind of way. Storytelling became very, very interesting again for me in that moment. And then learning how all the back end stuff and how to code that and how to implement it and how all that worked, and talking with all the developers that we were working to make all that work. Because when Flash first came out, there was no easy way to get video into Flash without it looking just terrible. But then not only did we want to put video in there, but we wanted interactive video with 3D elements, with all these graphical elements, with all the like that. That was literally the culmination of all these skills that were stacked on top of each other to make one experience for the end viewer. Let's get that off the screen. There we go. Look at that. So, are there things that you guys are working on towards your 10,000 hours? I know that a couple of people have said that already, but is there something? Do you think 10,000 hours is a true statement? Do you think it's only specific to things that you can practice, or is there another avenue, like with app development? Do you think that 10,000 hours leads to that understanding? Like making YouTube videos, do you think it falls in that 10,000? Like, how do you practice to that scale? Like, can you practice 8 hours, 10 hours a day making YouTube videos? I guess so. I guess if you're Mr. Beast, you get to that point where he just knows the pattern and the rhythm and the way to get people to click and understand that. So yeah, I guess there is that mastery of it. I completely agree. I do feel that it's an evolution of a skill. I think you're right on for that. Exactly. The learning the new skill, not new skill, but when it feels like my brain after school went, huh, that's how you do it. Okay. Like I that's why I kind of thought like maybe now I can go back and learn like psychology and finish university with a psychology degree, and then maybe go further into that, because those kind of things, like the way the mind works, the way the certain sounds and colors and all that kind of stuff, like all that fascinates me. That's what I do in my spare time, learning how colors make people feel, how certain words in a particular order, or like I tried to use that in my understanding on how to craft a better story, both with words and visuals and through the editing. Like it's one of my hobbies. I would say it's one of my hobbies. Progression is not linear. First 1 to 3,000 hours will be massive growth. Then it is way slower. Yeah. So I remember in that, in the original document, but in the original study, they actually said that it was an average. Most people were between 6,000 hours and 12,000 hours, or a little bit more, depending on where they kind of classified in their mastery of like what level they would say, like how good they would be on the world stage for the violinists. Excuse me. But I think there is that exponential growth and then plateau, and then these spikes as you get further along in the development of something. I think that anything that you dedicate that amount of time to, you can master. I agree. And the more time you put into something, the better overall and the more proficient you're going to be, and the better you'll be able to communicate even to other people that are in the field. And I think that's the important part, is when you start going down that path, you're able to expand your horizons. And that's one of the things that Elon Musk does very, very well, where all these scientists literally told him that they can't build a rocket for cheaper, and the way they're doing it is the only way to do it. He kind of went away, learned as much as he possibly could. He talked with many rocket scientists, and he came back with a proposal to them. It's like, will this work? And they looked at it. They're like, huh. Yeah, and that's where the whole SpaceX, the rocket development, kind of took off, where they developed their own engines because they weren't able to buy the rockets cheap enough to make it affordable for them to do what they wanted to do. So he's able to work on a level with rocket scientists that he's able to communicate solid ideas that then they go and further solve, which I find to be fascinating. Oh. The key is to be able to push through and not give up. And I think that's where, not motivation, I think that's where the passion kind of comes through, because motivation can get you off the couch and started, but it's the passion that will drive you to keep going once the motivation runs out. Because motivation isn't something that sticks around for too long. It ebbs and flows, and everyone takes advantage of it when you're motivated to go do something. But it's when you're in that downswing to keep going and persevere. I think that is what is important. Oh, so today I want to talk about another thing that was on my shelf. So my daughter made this for me, and I think this is absolutely adorable. I love it. So she made this for me, and I've had it ever since. This is one of her, I think, little school projects. Can you guys read that? And this fits in perfectly to Luis, what you're saying. It's just that ambition, not ambition, that power to keep going and not give up, to find a solution to the problems, to never give up. And I know that it's just one of those things. It's sentimental to me, but at the same time hits so well on the attitude that we kind of try to have here in the house, which is just, you know, if you fall down, get back up. Yeah, it's gonna hurt. Yeah, you know, learning how to rollerblade, you're gonna fall on your butt and it's gonna hurt, and you know what? Get back up. Keep going. Sometimes we all fall flat on our face. Every time we post a video, we don't know how well it's gonna do. Sometimes it falls flat on its face, and you're like, well, I'm gonna make another one. And you know, it kind of put ourselves through that own punishment, because I know for me, I'm actually really excited to make the next video. I'm really excited to do the next live stream. I enjoy these thought experiments where we get to do these to just talk through some of these ideas, especially like these are the kind of topics that I talk to my friends with, and you know, everyone that is here, I really appreciate all the conversation that we have, especially this kind of stuff. And I'm still trying to figure out how to get Clubhouse to link in with this to work. And I'm trying to do it without buying a Rodecaster. They're expensive. I don't need a Rodecaster just yet. It's on my wish list to get, but I don't want to get one just yet. It's something that if you guys have any ideas on how I can get Clubhouse, I can get the visuals of Clubhouse on here, but I can't send the mic back to it. So I'm using the proper mic. So one mic is being used for everything. So I just want to figure out how to do that, because otherwise I just have to listen to it here, and it's this weird janky setup that I don't want to do. But in terms of that, I just want to say thank you everyone for hanging out with me on this lovely Thursday. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for being here. Thank you for commenting and just watching the videos and pushing the conversation forward. This is part of our 10,000 hours. It's definitely part of my 10,000 hours to improve on the social skill to communicate on a more concise manner. But yeah, Luis, definitely send me how you do it. That would be fantastic. Let's start a conversation about that. As always, thanks for watching. Give this video a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't, and I know you have. I will talk to you soon. Have a happy Thursday. Bye for now.